Hello class, today in math we are working on understanding different strategies to make the number 10. So today we are going to use tens frames and even double tens frames. So I'm going to read a problem to you and I want you to look at our tens frames and think about what tens frame might fit our problem. So our problem is this. There are 6 large dogs and 4 small dogs. How many dogs are there? So when we're looking at a tens frame, we see two different sets of counters, right? We see a set that's red and we see a set that's yellow. These are our two different numbers. So the first color that we see always right here in this page is red. So we know that our red counters match our first number. And then our yellow counters match our second number. This is just an addition problem, right? So we need to think which one of our tens frames has 6 large dogs and 4 small dogs. So we need to look at our counters. Let's look at this first one. Ready? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 would be our first number, right? So this can't be our tens frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That could be our tens frame. So we would have 6 large dogs, and let's count our second one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we would have 6 large dogs and 4 small dogs. So this is our tens frame. So we're going to write down our number sentence. So our first number is our red counter, so 6 plus 4. And each of these problems equals 10, right? So our tens frame has 10 spaces in it. So all of these, when they are filled, equals the number 10. So 6 plus 4 equals 10. Now I'm going to read you a few different problems, and I want you to match and think about what tens frame goes with that problem. So our first one is, what if there were 5 large dogs and 5 small dogs? So what tens frame has 5 and 5? I want you to take a second to think about it. Hopefully you said this one. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to write down my addition problem as 5 plus 5 equals 10, right? So remember, each color represents a different number. So we have 5 and 5. Our next problem says this. If I can find the correct one, here it is. I want you to think about what model would show if we have 8 large dogs and 2 small dogs. So we're looking for the tens frame that shows 8 large dogs and 2 small dogs. So the first number we should be looking for is 8, right? So I want you to think for a second which one has 8 right away. This one. I hope that's what you said. If you didn't, that's okay. So let's count them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we have our 2 small dogs, our second number, 1, 2. So when I write down my addition problem, it is going to look like this. 8, which is my first number, the red, plus 2, my yellow counters, and my second number, equals 10. Right? So notice how each one of these has filled up my tens frame, and our number is 10. Our next problem is this. What if there were 9 large dogs and 1 small dog? So 9 large dogs and 1 small dog. So you might think in your head, I know this is a tens frame. And if I have 9 large dogs, that's 1 less than 10. So this one is, the red is going to fill up most of my tens frame. So you might think this is our tens frame that goes with our problem. Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 large dogs and 1 small dog. So our addition problem is going to look like this. 9 plus 1 equals 10. And our last one, and you'll know which one it is right away, right? Because it's our very last tens frame. Which one is our model for 7 large dogs and 3 small dogs? This one, right? So our first number is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 1, 2, 3 equals 10. 7 plus 3 equals 10. If we count it another way, we would see that this equals 10 as well. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there we go. But we count them as our two separate numbers, right? This is just our number sentence. Now I want you to think about, what repetition did you see? What did you notice in these equations in our number sentences? Did you notice anything? I noticed that our first addend, so remember our addend is our first digit. So our addend, our first one, goes up by 1 each time in each of these problems. And as our first addend goes up, our second addend, so the second digit we're adding, goes down by 1 each time. So notice I went, for my first one, I went 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9. And my second addend, I went down from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. So that's one pattern that I noticed. Did you notice any other patterns? I want you to think about those in your head, and we'll talk about this in class as well. Now we're going to look at a double tens frame. So I'm going to put my double tens frame right here. So in first grade, you worked on adding different addends to make 10. So that means our two different number pairs that equal 10. So some that you might be thinking of are 9 plus 1, 8 plus 2, 7 plus 3, 6 plus 4, and 5 plus 5. Those are the ones that we use to create the number 10. So we can also break apart one of our addends to help us create our number, to help us add other number sentences a little bit easier. So for example, if I have the number sentence 7 plus 4, we can break apart our 4, or we can decompose it to help us figure out what our answer is, right? So we know 7 plus 3 is 10. So 1 more than 3 is 4. So 1 more than 10 would be what? We could also break apart just like this. So we know that we need help making adding our addend to make this 10. So we know we're going to split 4 into 3 and 1, because 7 plus 3 is 10. So now we can add our problem a little bit easier. We can say 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So we can break apart, and it's a little hard to see, there we go. So we can break apart our second addend to help us, or even our first addend to help us solve our problem a little bit easier. So if we can add one of our numbers to equal 10, it's going to make it a lot easier to solve our final problem. So now I want to pose the problem for you, 9 plus 7. So I'm going to need a double tens frame because my answer is going to be more than 10, right? If I add 7 to 9, my number is going to be higher than 10. So on my first board, I'm going to put 9. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I have one space left and I need to put my 7 on. So remember, my 7 are going to be a different color and I am going to add them. First, I'm going to add them on our second one, okay? So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But I still have a place left over right here, right? And this is where that breaking apart our other addend comes in. So if I have, and I'm going to write it on my board as well, if I have 9 plus 7, what plus 9 equals 10? 1, right? So can we break apart our 7 into a part that has 1 and another number? What plus 1 equals 7? 6. So I know my problem becomes this, 9 plus 1 plus 6. So I can do 9 plus 1, which makes 10, and that makes our problem easier. So 10 plus 6 is 16. So another way to show this with our tens frame is like this. We can move one of our counters from our second tens frame up to our first tens frame to help fill it so that we'll have 10 and some more. This will make our problem a little bit easier. So I'm going to move one from my line that has fewer. So I'm going to move one right here to here. So now I can see that I have 10 plus some more. So I have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we can either use breaking apart our add-ins, or we can use our double tens frames to help us figure out our number. In your assignment today, you are going to work on both 10 frames problems where you come up with your own tens frame number sentences for double tens frames and for regular tens frames. So remember, this is double. If I just show you one, that is just one regular tens frame. So, and then in your other assignment, you are going to work on breaking apart your add-ins to help you add your numbers a little bit easier. Okay, so that is what we are going to do in our assignments today.